Welcome to the Carbon Circle, where we host honest, in depth conversations about building a sustainable Bharat. I'm your host, Roshan Rai, and on this episode, we are diving into one of the most underestimated yet transformative solutions to India's waste crisis. Every single day, India generates roughly 1.4 billion kg of waste. Most of it ends in the landfill, decomposing for decades, releasing methane and emissions into the air. But what if I told you there is a technology that can process 900 tons of waste every single day with zero odor, zero emissions, and transform it into something incredibly valuable? Today, I'm talking to Abha Tadvalkar from INORA Biotech about how microbial science, inherited legacy, and bold entrepreneurship are reimagining India's relationship with waste. Abba leads a company that has been operating for the last 3 decades and now is scaling solutions that range from 1 rupee per day home composting systems to industrial operations that process nearly 1,000 tons daily. We are going to talk about the science behind their breakthrough, the economics that make sustainability actually affordable, and the vision for what a truly circular India could look like by 2047. But more importantly, we are going to understand why this matters for your home, your city, and your business. This is the Carbon Circle. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome. A very good afternoon as we are recording this podcast. So today, the concept or the topic that we're going to cover in the podcast is microbial magic, turning 900 tons of waste into black gold. So we are going to look at the circularity or the science of circularity rather. We'll be touching upon four broad topics like we do in other podcasts as well. The main topic that we're going to touch upon is the science behind building microbial magic, the technology that scales. Before we jump to that, we will look at the agroecology inheritance and the second generation leadership. We will look at Abha's journey. And the third topic that we'll cover today is economics of circularity. What are the different economical angle that this very solution Inora provides has? And the fourth topic that we're going to cover is building a circular future, where we look at impacts, partnerships, and the vision for 2047. Because the objective of this podcast, the Carbon Circle, is talking and to improve on the talks or bring about conversations moving towards the Vikasit Bharat 2047. So with that, Abba, let me ask you my first question. So your mother founded Inora as a passionate agroecologist during a time when very few women were leading biotech ventures in India. So what was her original vision, and what was that one lesson from her that you have carried forward into your leadership today? I understand you're seeing a transition now. So what is that you're carried forward with you?
So my mother, Manjushri Tadvalkar, she is actually a zoologist by
Hmm.
training and a passionate scientist, as she calls herself. So her journey actually began with Toxicology Institute of India,
Mhm.
and she was working as a researcher there. And in few of the studies that she undertook there, she realized that the food that we are consuming today is lacking nutrition,
Hmm.
and she started digging deep into this subject, and it led her to the soil
Mhm.
and the fact that the soil has now is lacking the kind of nutrition it needs,
Correct.
and that needs to be worked on.
Hmm.
And because of this, she actually took up the case and started taking up extensive research in vermi technology, vermi biotechnology, soil sciences. And then she quit this job and started working with passionate researchers in this field of vermi biotechnology.
So
And
which
then
which if I may interrupt, because there is now a focus given on soil, but which year was it when your mother realized that the nutrients in the soil is lacking?
So this is 1991,
91. Okay.
1991. So two
Mhm.
years she did her extensive research in this segment, sector.
That's really amazing. So I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt your flow of thoughts. The reason I asked that question is because now there is so much of social media, so much of internet, information available, where we get to realize and understand that the food that we're consuming today is not as nutritious as it were before. and thanks to the lack of nutrients in the soil itself. And this very information, since your mother got into the research of this early in the 90s, so that itself is an achievement for that time, right? Please continue.
So actually, I would like to go back. This is not really new to India. This
Right.
actually began with her mentors at that
Mhm.
time. I would like to name them Dr. M.R. Bide and Padma Shri R.T. Doshi.
Hatitoshi, okay.
Both of them founded this organization called Know How Foundation, of
Okay.
which now Manjushri Tadvalkar is also a trustee, so am I.
Mm-hmm.
And we all collectively, actually, we still work for the soils even today. But back then, they were working very hard to actually restore the soil organic carbon, which is like the first marker of the health of the soil.
Correct.
So back then, they were all committed to this topic, and this actually brought her to this field. And then her journey started in INORA Biotech. And
Mhm.
at that time, she had envisioned working with farmers, working with communities, working with urban spaces, urban gardeners, and with one goal to actually save the soil, to work for the soil.
Hmm.
And that is how her journey began. Um, what she has always stressed through her leadership is one thing is that nature is simple, but
Hmm.
it's a process.
Right.
And secondly, we as human beings can't, or whether we are entrepreneurs, we are researchers, we should never lose our touch with the land.
Right.
So every decision that you take needs to be informed by what is the context outside, what is happening in the community, how is it accepting, is it refusing, if it is refusing, why is it refusing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so always it is the land that should inform the lab, inform the business, inform the strategies,
Mm-hmm.
not vice versa. And this is actually an important lesson that has actually translated into, I'm learning this in my leadership phase.
That's amazing. So there is a vast experience that has been transferred onto you. I think that is a blessing, right? But a few things that stood out from the very answer that you just gave me. One is, of course, being in touch. I mean, not looking at the problem in isolation, but rather being in touch with all aspects of the entire ecosystem is also important to get to that solution point, right? So that's one key learning. And like you said, the science is simple, but it requires process. It requires nurturing. Uh, Abba, my next question to you is this: that now that you're seeing a transition, from your mother to you, the role is getting transitioned. So when did you realize that you wanted to step into this role?
So actually, to be very honest, I was never an outsider. I
Mhm.
was always an inside person. So I always joke that Inora and I are like sisters. We grew up together.
Right.
So I am born in 1988, and Inora came up in 1992.
1991. Oh, 92. Okay.
So since that age, I have been actually accompanying my mother to the field. I have seen the way she used to interact with farmers, interact with gram panchayats, interact with different, even plants. I've seen her interact with plants, with earthworms. And as I grew up, so she would make me, okay, like when I was in college, she would say, okay, right, this is my idea, write this concept note for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or she would make me accompany, and then she would say that, okay, now I'm going to sit back and I want to see you actually deliver this talk to the farmers.
Mm-hmm.
So I was never really an outsider. I was always in the process, in the team, and I
Right.
was always informed of what was happening. But what actually I would say was a turning point is that my training is in social sciences, and I was doing this one assignment about women in agriculture.
Women in agriculture. Okay.
Yeah, and I was reading this one paper when I realized that as a culture, we are, our base is agrarian society. We were an agrarian society. All our rituals, all our customs, everything starts and is informed from that.
Great.
And this is a field that I've been trained in. I've seen it in front of me, and it would be nice to actually be a part of that. And so even after I finished my studies, I worked with a few organizations, but this actually drew me back. So the plan was to be a part of the team always,
Mhm.
but now I'm actually one of the core people and looking to lead it now. So that is how my journey actually
Uh,
happened.
the journey seems very organic in that sense. I mean, given the exposure that you had very early in your life to the very process that your mother began, and being in touch with nature, being with the on the farmlands, figuring out the solutions, perhaps also made you think in that direction. So it looks very organic. But what is that vision that your mother had for Inora when she initiated the company in the year 1992?
So, everything about our lives, including Inora, is organic, to be very candid.
Hmm.
So, she came in Inora with the idea to carry on the research that feeds into the soil, and
Mhm.
whatever the research comes forth, it should be taken out into the communities. So
Okay.
that is how it was originally envisioned, as an organization that works to train the communities in this sector.
Right.
The journey actually began. So I remember to actually promote vermicomposting, vermiculture, vermibiotechnology. My mother would travel all across India to set up vermicomposting projects in military farms. So that was the concept in 1990s, where there used to be these dedicated military farms,
Right.
and then she would train the people into composting and then using that compost in the farms. So right from Himachal Pradesh to Kerala to Andhra Pradesh, she's traveled across
Hmm.
and worked with this. But as actually the research also led her ahead, another actually a serious issue that all of our team at that time could realize was the growing municipal solid waste.
Hmm.
And then they dug deep into it and realized that 80% of this waste is actually compostable. So they
Right.
started with simple techniques of teaching urban residents the topics of home composting. So today, when I look at Amazon, and there are like, hundreds of models of home composting. Back in the 1990s, we used to have, if you remember, there used to be these mango boxes, the wooden boxes in which you would get Alfonso mangoes.
Right.
So that was converted into composters
Hmm.
at that time. And she would actually go set it up, pilot them, and there would be calls at like 10 p.m. at night that take the stinky basket away.
Yeah.
We had one such composter in our house as well, and that would beautifully work and consume everything, including a dead fish
Hmm. Hmm.
that was from our fish tank, without actually leaving a stench. So now working with this community is something that she started, because again, the vision was always to work for the soil, for the sustainable soil, for the soil regeneration.
Hmm.
But we kind of started diversifying our methods, because just one unilayer approach was not working. And I'm so happy today that this small activity actually translated into a very serious research in home composting. And today we are working with 13,000 households who are home composting today.
Hmm.
So this
That's
one
a
vision.
very, very, very successful journey, from to extending it to 13,000 households. But
Yes.
Abha, I understand that, I mean, composting might look like a very simplistic sort of a solution for solving the soil crisis. But for the podcast who are listening, or so for the listeners who are now tuning into this podcast, right? If you were to explain to them what is composting, what is the significance of composting, and why is it important in today's date and time?
Okay. So, composting, there are two things that actually we use interchangeably, and that should not be done. One is composting,
Hmm.
is a process of slow decomposition.
Mhm.
And second is actually rotting.
Okay.
Okay, so rotting is degradation.
Right.
So when you are composting, there is a microbial action where there are certain very good microorganisms. They are breaking down complex food, complex organic materials into
Hmm.
something called as humus, and
Hmm.
humus then turns into soil. So if actually you go into a forest, or you take a go on a trek along the hills, you have this very nice earthy smell. That smell
Correct.
is humus. From where has it come? It has come from decomposition of this organic matter,
Right.
where bacteria has acted upon it in the presence of oxygen. They have utilized oxygen to decompose this
Right.
organic material. The second aspect which we interchangeably use is rotting. Rotting is where there is an odor, there is a stench.
Correct.
So, of course, there is bacteria involved, but that is anaerobic
Mm.
condition, and which is happening either in a scenario where oxygen is less available or is not available at all. Of course, such processes are also used. They are called biomethanation, and they are
Mhm.
used for decomposing. But one actually turns it into humus, and other, then you have to cure it and then use it into your farms. So these are
Right.
the basic things about about composting. Now,
Right.
what is
But nutrition wise, both the rotting and the composting or the decomposing nutrition wise are they same or?
no? So, like I said, humus. Humus actually translates into something called as the soil organic carbon. So,
Hmm.
in human health, normally the first few things that when you visit a doctor and the doctor asks you to do a medical test, he asks you to check hemoglobin.
Correct.
Similarly, in soil sciences, the first marker of of the soil health is the soil organic carbon present in the soil, and it comes actually from the humus.
Hmm.
So these are the two actually basic differences when it happens in an anaerobic way.
Right, right. Very interesting. I think because of the science that happens. I mean, most of us overview these things. We don't even care to understand what goes on. I think there is so much of microbial life that kind of sustains our life, and then there is so much science and so much work that is happening there just to decompose, put the nutrients back into the soil so that fresh life can grow out of it, right?
Yes.
So that's the creation's beauty, I would assume, right? But I mean, just going back to the question of the vision that your mother had while starting in 1992, has the vision stayed the same? I understand the scale has, of course, increased from just being organic. You found a problem within the municipal solid waste, where wet waste is something that you can definitely cater to. But has the vision changed, or has the vision same stayed the same? And if it has changed, what is the kind of change that you today see?
Vision is still the same,
Hmm.
that we are still very committed to the soils. Of course, the context has changed. There are other things that were included. But the
Right.
first thing that every team member, every person working in INORA will answer is, what do you work towards? With
Hmm.
what aim, what vision do you work towards? We all work towards uh, regeneration of our soil.
Right. Right. But has the solutions changed?
Have changed,
Right.
technologies have changed, our audience has changed. So something that started with us with farmers
Hmm.
grew into an urban audience, urban cities, gram panchayats, nagar parishads. We started working with slaughterhouses, we started working with industries. So now we are working with a group of people whom we are giving proper composting solutions. But all of this is keeping in mind whether this is actually making a difference to the soil.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the time where we are now fearing desertification in some of the parts of the country, and it is a problem I think is seen across the globe as well. So putting the nutrients back to the soil is extremely important, And composting definitely plays a very key role. Adding the organic compounds back, or the organic nutrients back, or the organic carbon back into the soil is extremely crucial. So kudos to you, and to your mother. I think we need to give a shout out for starting an organization of the sort. Let's now move to the science part of it. That is, I think you did touch upon uh, the point of the difference between composting and rotting. But Abha, you have an in-house lab that isolates microbial stains, right? And you create custom consortia. So for someone listening who doesn't have a biotech background, can you paint a picture what happens in that lab, and what are these microbes actually doing?
So microbes are actually like a parallel universe running aside us, and what we know of them is like tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
So they are like an extremely important part of our everyday lives. So now people are speaking about gut bacteria.
Hmm.
This is something that has come up in the decade. All
Right.
of all of these debates are taking place now. When we actually look at what we are doing in lab, is that there are certain processes either for composting or for agriculture. First, we identify strains and we source these microbial strains. So there are
Okay.
certain microbes which are excellent for decomposition. Some microbes are excellent for making uh, nitrogen, phosphorus, or potash, which is present in the soil, available to the plants.
Okay.
Some which actually, there are some microbes that attack the pathogens that exist in the soil,
Hmm.
or even in the compost which you're going to actually take it to the land. So we identify such strains, we source those strains, then we multiply them.
Hmm.
Multiplying them is something like, the process of making curd.
Right.
So you let it rest. You sometimes you have to
Hmm.
stir it. Sometimes you have to kind of give it a centrifugal fugal effect. So
Right.
those things that happen, after which it goes on the trial.
Hmm.
After that, it goes under quality control, and then they are actually they translate into products. Sometimes, especially when we work with industries, their waste is typical. Either it has a lot of proteins, or it has lot of oily substances. So you have to customize those bacteria or fungus or other kinds of microbes to kind of work or decompose such matter. So
Right.
then we actually take trials in house under controlled situations, then trials under uncontrolled situations, and then we suggest this method to them, and then we give them a proper product and solution. So this is actually what is happening at the back end.
Very
Uh,
interesting. So if you have a client coming to you with a certain wet waste problem, the first step is to figure out what is the kind of wet waste that the person or that particular company has.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you categorize as protein, oil, carbs, and things like that? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, so we have to first test what that material is. So if, especially if it is an industrial sludge,
Hmm.
which of course doesn't have heavy materials and is actually biodegradable, then
Hmm.
it first undergoes a certain amount of some certain testing as
Correct.
to so what it contains. So basis that, then the consortia, the microbes, the methods of decomposition, all of those are.
Right, right. So the first step is to understand the kind of waste that you want to handle. Step two is figuring out which strain of bacteria is best suitable for that, or degrading or decomposting that. Yeah, I think that's the word, no? Decomposting. Is that a word?
Yeah, decomposing.
Decomposing. So, which is the best bacteria strain that allows for a faster decomposition, and then have an ecosystem where this bacteria can grow, so that you can have this particular strain multiply in number, and then use that for a faster process, right?
Yeah, so I'll give you actually an example.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing this project with in partnership with Forbes Marshall. They were our funding partners, and it was a
Mm-hmm.
CSR project. And we were working in this village where we were collecting the waste of all the households, and it was we were managing it centrally.
Mm-hmm.
Now there were a lot of chicken and mutton shops, and there were hair salons, and that waste also started coming to the area where we were processing it.
Mm-hmm.
So um, we had a word with their CSR head, Preeti Kibe. I would like to name her, and so there was the only option was that we treat it. So then we actually did proper trials in house first on that slaughterhouse waste that came in, on the hair that came from the hair salon,
Mm-hmm.
and then actually developed a microbial consortia that worked for both. And then we started giving it as a product solution, but it started from there and it developed and it culminated into giving actually a proper solution to slaughterhouses and corporations who are struggling with actually
Right.
slaughterhouse waste coming into their landfills.
Mm-hmm. So this consortia that you prepare, are they sold in liters, or how do you provide?
So it's sometimes their nature varies.
Mm.
Sometimes it's actually in a liquid form.
Form? Okay.
Sometimes it's a powdered form.
Right. So this has to be diluted with maybe more amount of water and then put on there, or
Again, it is basis what amount of waste do you have. Sometimes you don't actually have to dilute it. You have to sometimes apply it directly. So
directly? Okay.
when you're using a product for agriculture, we always suggest certain amount of dilutions.
Mm-hmm.
In waste management, we suggest products being using them as
As
is.
it is directly then. Yeah.
This is the common practice, but again, it's not uniform everywhere. We have to first understand again, the land has to inform the practice, not.
So that is why it becomes important to consult an expert to get the best output or an outcome of this very
Yes.
solution that they're creating. So, Amal, let me ask you this. One key thing that you told me in the first part of the conversation is also that the kind of composting that you do does not have a foul smell to it,
Yes.
right? So maybe let's begin with a very fundamental. In the first place, why there is a foul smell? Let's begin with that. And what does that you guys do that kind of mitigates this foul smell?
So this actually to answer this question, this foul smell comes from the fact that the pH is sometimes it becomes unstable. It
Acidic.
should
Okay.
be in a neutral range.
Right.
So if it becomes acidic, it gives a more sulfuric kind of smell. If it becomes alkaline, it gives more like an ammonia smell. This kind of smell you get near the urinals,
Hmm.
public urinals. So this is the basic science that the disturbance in pH actually leaves that kind of stench.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Now, this can come because of varied reasons. Sometimes it's overdumping. Sometimes it's the moisture that that gets unstable. But
Right.
then the stench starts coming. But the consortia that we provide actually is interesting. Why? Because it works in both situations when the situations become acidic or they become alkaline and they stabilize it.
So the stabilization part of that very thing is taken care by the microbial stain itself, or is there anything else added to it?
No, by the microbials, the consortia that we give in the product, which
Right.
actually deals with the smell, and it's
So
working.
there's no addition of chemicals, and I mean the reason I ask you this is in a agriculture land, we do the soil testing, right? And during that, if the pH is +7 or below that, accordingly the chemicals are then put. So do you do that kind of thing, or it's purely bacterial strains that is used here?
So normally when we work let us say in a situation where we are giving solutions where there is a lot of mixed waste. This is a different situation. Waste management in itself is a different ball game,
Correct.
because getting something from a landfill and testing it is going to have no meaning, because the waste is going to come from all over. Or when you move across the dump site, or even the waste in our homes, so what is present today is going to change tomorrow. So today if
Correct.
I cook dal, doesn't mean I'm going to cook dal tomorrow. I might make chicken, or I might have let us say certain vegetables. So that composition is going to change
Yeah.
sometimes. So basis that the strains are developed keeping in mind this. Second important thing is, any organic matter has a smell to it. It could be a nice smell or a neutral smell.
Right.
So process of degeneration in itself. So when we say composting, composting is like slow cooking actually. So if you enter a kitchen where dal is being made, you don't somebody doesn't need to tell you that dal is being cooked, because just after the cooker whistle you can actually smell and say dal is
Yeah.
cooked here. So similarly, if you have added, let us say, methi, or you've added coriander to a composting bin, and somebody passes by it, they know that this vegetable is placed in this bin, because
Correct.
it has a smell to it. What actually goes wrong is, like I said, the pH gets affected, and very importantly, oxygen availability to the microorganism reduces. So
Right.
these two things are tackled with when we deal with the stench, with the odor, and that is developed. So, like in a situation like landfill, there could be bones. There could be heavy proteins. There could be something called as lignines. Lignines are like our coconuts.
Hmm.
So the coconut shells take a lot of time to decompose.
Right.
So all the consortia that is provided is keeping in mind this kind of diverse material that is going to be there, and in an aerobic situation, or when the pH imbalance takes place, you have to deal with the situation. So that is how the consortia is developed.
Interesting.
If
Interesting. So, I mean, very clearly, what I understand is that there is a lot more science to understanding the different smells, the acidity, the oxidation factor, all of that, right? My next question is regarding scale, right? So, I mean, if the same solution were to be implemented at a, let's say, a single residential home versus it being implemented in a large scale factory or a municipality corporation where the waste is dumped, does the solution remain the same, or is there a variation? If there is a variation, what are the parameters that gets added on into this?
So, a ballpark figure in a household, normally the families of 4 or 5 members, it's 1 kg waste per day
Per
that
day.
comes out of that household.
Hmm.
So, all our calculations of the space are basis 1 kg per day, and the amount of area that you're going to need. Now,
Hmm.
why is the space again important? Like I said, that anaerobic situations, if you don't want them to develop, you have to stop kind of what do you call that? Over dumping of waste.
Hmm.
If you want to avoid over dumping, you have to increase the space for the microbes to grow, to breed, to breathe. So for that you need some operational space for you to kind of turn the waste, to add the waste, to add the cultures, to water them whenever required.
Hmm.
Um, and also to kind of layer them up, to spread that material across that surface.
Right.
So what we say is, you need 4 square feet of space
Right.
for processing 1 kg of waste per day.
Hmm.
So then all the calculations are designed basis.
On that. So, but if it is done for a industry, is it just a space that I mean, do you require a much larger space? Is that the only criteria or requirement, or is there a consortium also going to change? I mean,
So
of course, the type of waste is definitely a criteria for you to choose
is
the.
the type of waste. If you're doing an industrial sludge, then it becomes a different kind of containerization.
Right.
We give industries also two options, that whether you want to go under containerization, or you're okay without containers, what we call as windrows.
Hmm.
If the waste is garden waste, windrows can be placed anywhere that there is space. You can't do that to kitchen waste, because then there will be rodents, there will be other infestation,
Right.
which affects the industries. So keeping all of this in mind, keeping the space in mind, we design the containers, we design the space.
Hmm.
Sometimes even in industries, you might find that the containers are not in one dedicated space. We have come up with these what we call as IBC tanks. They're already present in the industries. If
Mhm.
industries don't have them, we provide them, we modify them to do
Mhm.
composting, and then they are placed at different spots, so that they don't seem to occupy that kind of space. So
Space. Yeah.
some solutions are also given to the industries.
Right. So, I mean, just out of curiosity, if I'm an householder looking for a dustbin, should I look for a dustbin that is narrow, or should I look for a dustbin that has a broader?
So dustbin and composters are two different things.
Right. No, the reason I ask you this question is usually, they do not throw the waste on an everyday basis, especially bachelors. There is a habit of doing it once in 3 days or once in 4 days, which is not a great habit. I do understand. But if, I mean, problem specifically, or okay, the problem just does arise because there is a lot of bad smell that generates as a result of, that waste being put in that one box and keeping it there for a very long period of time. So if,
Yes.
if, if I were to choose a dustbin, is there a science to it?
So if you're just throwing it in the dustbin, there is no such microbe that is actually available to
Okay.
it. It's a plastic bin.
Correct.
Uh, again, microbes actually appearing there is also not, you're not giving it much of a scope for them to actually come there. So
Correct.
they're obviously going to smell, because you're going to add waste every day to it,
Hmm.
and then it's going to start smelling, because again it's going to go towards a condition where oxygen is not available
Available to
uh,
it. Yeah. So,
to
so,
it.
so the reason I asked that question is for that very point that you made, because if there is more space for oxygenation, likely the smell that is generated can be sort of reduced. I mean, that's my understanding of it. So if I were to choose a composter for my home, would the shape of it matter? Shape of
Shape doesn't matter, the space matters. Like I said,
space matters.
4 square feet
Hmm.
uh, is ideally the area that you need for composting. It should
Right.
also have materials that soak water, so that
Hmm.
otherwise you will see a lot of water leaching out of it, and
Correct.
that leached water actually has lot of odor to it.
Right.
So it has to have material. So it should actually go from thick to coarse. That has to be the kind of. So you begin with materials like bricks or stones. Then
Mm-hmm.
something that is finer than that. Then finer than that. Then a surface where microbes and earthworms can coexist at the same time, and then add waste on top of that. That is the ideal way to compost.
Right, right. Interesting. So if it is too slimy in nature, it'll also create a lot of problems. So there has to be layering that has to be done if it is home composted, where you have a wet and a dry layer on top of it. Is that how you go
Not
about it?
wet. So, like, ideally stones and bricks,
Hmm.
dried grass, some garden waste. On top of that, probably a layer of compost.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you add the waste on top of
Okay.
that.
So ideally at a house for let's say a household of 4 people, how big a container would they require if they were to opt for
So the technology that we've developed, it is called a composter planter. It is a
Mhm.
200-liter water barrel.
barrel?
It's a plastic barrel. It's
Yeah.
given aeration holes on different size of it, so that
Mhm.
oxygen becomes available.
Circulation. Okay.
It is layered up, and on
Hmm.
top of that, you add up to 1 kg waste per day. and then there is a procedure to operating it, so that you should turn the waste. After adding it, you should turn it a little every day, mix it in the top layer. Then once in 7 days we give a microbial culture for it to decompose, and we give a spray which actually is the odor controlling
Oh,
spray.
the odor controlling spray. Okay, very interesting. So this container, is it placed horizontally or is it placed
It's a vertical container because it
vertical?
is easy to operate than a horizontal kind of
Horizontal.
container.
The reason I asked is if there is a lever that is given to kind of rotate that very composter bin. Would it
So it's actually there are such models. We've also tried working around them, but there is also a danger of waste spilling out if it's not operated
be right?
properly.
Right. Oh yeah, because there are those ventilation holes that you have put in that entire thing.
Exactly.
Okay, very interesting. Abha, tell me this. I mean, you've been certified by Baba Atomic Research Center, right? So, what was the certification process for your solution that you have built?
So it's not actually a certification, that is kind of an approval of. So there were certain microbial strains that we realized were very effective, and so we sourced it from Baba Atomic Research Center.
Okay.
We isolated those. We developed certain products from them,
Mm-hmm.
which then we, as per our agreement, we had to notify it to them. Then we also started using the products, but they also went for testing, quality check back to BARC. Then after it passed their quality check, then they kind of said that these are approved
Approval.
by Baba Atomic Research Center.
Right. I mean, how many? I mean, do you see the implementation or acceptance of a solution like this in India is increasing year on year? Do you see that happening, especially from the corporates or the industrial sector?
Uh, yes, actually, but more forthcoming are actually the government institutions these days.
Hmm.
They are looking for sustainable waste management solutions. They are looking for good town planning. They are looking for good urban planning. So,
Right.
along with industries, even it is very surprising, but the kind of awareness that is coming up, even in these bodies,
Hmm.
that is equally good.
Right. Right.
So yeah, so these are all sorts of, so even in industries, because of the entire ESG coming up, and the way sustainability is now being dealt with in industries, that is also coming up a big way. The awareness amongst the people working there is also increasing, which is
Yeah.
actually a good sign.
That's a good sign, definitely a good sign. Because solutions can be of any type. It could be nature based, it could be even technical in nature. But at the end of the day, it has to be sustainable per se. For if we were to build a sustainable Bharat by 2047. But before we jump to the circularity related questions, I have one question that is linked with the economics of it.
Mhm.
The one, and also I think that the time period of it. So how long does the solution that occupies, let's say, a 4 square meter space, how long does it take for it to compose? Let's say if it is a 400 liter bucket that we have, or a container that we have, and that might I mean, if we add 1 kg of waste on a daily basis, how many days, how does the cycle work?
Yes. So we were working with Sudarshan Chemicals through their CSR,
Okay.
and um, we established about 750 home composters in and around Munshi area
Mhm.
with their partnership. And 6 months ago, I visited some of them, and they have not filled up till now.
Oh, it's okay. 6 months.
Yeah, I visited 6 months ago, and we've set them up in 2013. So
Oh.
that's 12 years.
So from the things that you add from top, do you get to take the black gold from the bottom?
So what happens basically is, this is again breaking down of the organic waste.
Hmm.
Organic waste has 80% water in it, the kitchen waste.
Right.
The solids are hardly 20%,
Hmm.
which further break down into humus. And
Hmm.
then they further disintegrated and convert themselves into soil. So
Okay.
because of which the container as such never actually fills. So since 2013, people are still using it.
Hmm. So if I add 1 kg of waste, only 200 grams of it is likely going to convert into black gold. 80% is just liquid
It's
there.
just water.
Uh, but this liquid, if it were to be separated from that, does it have nutrients in it? Can it be used for any other purposes there?
Actually, again, because when it is waste and now you're adding it there,
Hmm.
nu- that water as such needs to be processed again
Processed. Hmm.
to be able to make those nutrients available. In the process of composting, that
Right.
water is itself used in our composter. So
Right.
we don't really ask people to add water to it separately. We say
Right.
that only add water when you find the moisture levels are low,
Right.
because the waste in itself is going to have enough water in it to
Correct. The other question that I have is, I mean, I'll come to the economics part of it, but before that is also the impact of seasons on the composting process, right? The summer, monsoon, or the winter. So, does the rate of composting change between these seasons? Is there a shift that you see?
No,
Or
the composting is a process that actually goes. It needs a little monitoring. I will not say it doesn't, because in rains, again, it works across diverse areas. But
hmm,
what it needs, because again, nature is simple, but it is a process. So you have to monitor the
the
process
process.
when it comes to the waste. So in summers, you have to make sure that the moisture in that is maintained. You have to add water to it sometime.
Hmm,
Here in India, if you're looking at a region like Kerala, or if you're looking like in a region like Konkan in Maharashtra, which is a heavy rainfall
rainfall.
area, then
Yeah.
you have to work towards maintaining moisture. Sometimes the moisture is really going to increase. So
Hmm.
then there are ways to control that. So then that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So you have to maintain, keep the process going,
Yeah.
keep that balance going. That
Hmm.
is something that is going to require 20 seconds per kg per day.
Right. So now that comes to my next question, the economics of it. So there is of course an upfront cost for the container, all of that, the entire setup. But post that, what are the kind of costs that, or the operational costs that the client has to bear? Is there if there is any?
So there are two kinds. So one is if somebody is looking at a solution where it's going to simplify the process, where they just add and they're done with it,
Hmm.
then per day you need to spend 2 to 3 rupees per day.
Hmm.
But there are actually a lot of enthusiastic people that we are working with right now, who are actually going out of the way to maintain this unit. They're
Hmm.
actually spending their, at least 10-15 minutes a day taking care of the unit that is given to them. In such case, then it is 15 minutes per day and 1 rupee per day.
1 rupee per day. And
Yes.
and the container will last how many years?
Like I said, the container, so it is more about the space than the container. So
Hmm.
4 square feet is what you need,
Right.
and a container that can actually be given that aeration facility.
Right.
uh, Otherwise it's not really about the container. It's
Right.
more
Right.
about the layers and the process then.
Yeah. So I mean, as given it is a plastic container, it might have a lifespan of, let's say, 15-20 years, or maybe even more than that.
Than that. So,
Even more.
like I said, since 2013, there are these households, and it's working fine for them. There are, of course, few households where somebody put burning coal from their chula in that, and then it melted down. So, those damages you have to kind of factor in.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely there. That is the experimental category of folks. All right, awesome. So, Ava, thank you so much for answering those questions. I think I have kind of dug into your brain with the science behind. But you've been very, very clear with your answers, and I am of the opinion that this will also give the listeners a better understanding of the science behind composting. So let's get into the circularity aspect of it, Abha. So you just made that a statement that it is 1 rupee per day, the cost of it. So you made home composting cost just 1 rupee per day. That's actually very, very.
Most of your time. Don't forget the 15 minutes if you want one
Yeah,
rupee per
yeah.
day.
I mean, the
That
time
is
is of
money to a
course
lot of people.
invaluable. That is definitely there. So is it just the microbial culture, electricity, or is there something else that makes up to this cost of 1 rupee? And how did you arrive at this very price point? I mean, let's keep the time part aside.
So it's just microbial cultures. We don't need any electricity for this.
Right.
You do need to add some water, but that too, we suggest that you use water that is actually used in the kitchen, the kind of water that you can recycle into this system.
Hmm. Hmm. So this the microbial culture. If I were to purchase it off you, where am I supposed to be getting it? Do
So
you?
it's available on Amazon.
Okay.
It's available on in our office, and now our website is we are revamping our website, so it will be soon available on our
On
website.
a website as well. I mean, is it sold per liter, per grams?
Sorry.
Is it sold in liters or is it sold?
So there are it's a group of two cultures. One is
Okay,
a powder, so that is 1 kg is the minimum packet size, and then there is a liquid solution which is for odor neutralizing.
for maintaining the. Okay, so okay, that's good to know. So I mean, if somebody were interested to have a home composting setup made with the consortium, they can definitely look you up on the Amazon platform. Let me get to the next question. Right now, most sustainability entrepreneurs struggle with the question that how do I make this profitable while keeping it accessible, right? So how do you think about that tension in Inora's business model?
So, one of the important things that we've done is that we close the loop. We
Hmm.
have not stuck to one line, but we have also covered different segments around it. So, while working with farmers, we are also working with the urban communities.
Right.
We are teaching them home composting. We have also created a group of social entrepreneurs who are now giving service to
Hmm.
the urban areas who then come and buy our products. We also have an entire product range. So,
Okay.
so those products are sold out. Apart from that, we also have very good CSR partners who are helping us take the subject outside.
Hmm.
We're working with Bharat Forge, and with Bharat Forge, I would really like to quote that they had so much of vision in the kind of um city Pune should be, that we are working with 2,000 household right in a densely populated area called Hadapsar in Pune city, and there
Hmm.
are people who are home composting there in their balconies, who are, that are right next to the kitchen.
Hmm.
So we are working with such people who are actually taking our technology and who are helping us extend our technology. Apart
Technology.
from this, we are also working very closely with gram panchayats. We are working very closely with the industries. So when we look at closing the loop, we actually look at all the stakeholders that are present in them. So either we are reaching out to them either by giving them products or services, or sometimes partnering them with them as knowledge partners.
Yeah, that's multiple revenue streams. So the clear message out there for entrepreneurs who's wanting to make it profitable is look for all avenues for creating revenues in the entire supply chain thing there. About I mean, my next question is again related to the economics of it, right? So for a house of four, a likely waste generated is maybe one kg per day. But if it were an industry, with let's say 500 or 1,000 employees, the scale will be maybe in thousands, right?
Yes.
Per day. So what is the kind of capital that the company has to set aside to implement a solution of this format or of this kind? And what are the kind of uh, operational costs that they might have to bear, be it with manpower, be it with the consortium that it requires, or are there any other things? Can you give some perspective on this?
So roughly, if we look at industries, the capex cost mostly remains at 5,000 per kg
Mm-hmm.
per day. That
Okay.
that is the given capex that you need. While
Mhm.
but then if you want some you know different kinds of containers or a better kind of containers, or you want it constructed, then of course the cost then changes basis that, and
Right.
that changes as per the region or as per the space available, and many other factors come in there.
Right. So this 5,000 rupees per kg, that's, I mean, how did you come to that number?
So, based on the containers that we use, based on the entire technology and the ecosystem that we develop, that
Hmm.
is what takes the capex. Now,
Okay.
OPEX is something that for otherwise operations you need two to three rupees per day for the microbial cultures.
Right.
Right now, the industries that we are working with, manpower comes with the facility that they are giving. Otherwise, then based on the region, based on the working hours, then that is again an overhead that is charged if they want manpower from us.
Right, right. So, one other follow-up to that very question is the source segregation, as we talk about when we talk about waste management, right? At home, as it is right now in India, we just have wet waste and then dry waste. Now, can the process of composting be enhanced by further improving on the segregation? Is there a possibility for improving of the performance there?
Actually, segregation is the most important part, because
Hmm.
it begins from your home. And if you actually want to enter a space where you want to reduce the landfills, segregation is a must. And a
Right.
basic segregation, at least, of
Hmm.
dry waste, wet waste, and reject waste
Yeah.
needs to be done. There is no, actually, there are no two thoughts about it. What happens when you actually start composting at home is that naturally the clean dry waste comes out,
Hmm.
and then of course then certain other reject waste like diapers and sanitary napkins, then those are the other ways that you then give separately.
Right.
But the first thing that is achieved out of home composting. Also, there are a lot of societies who are doing in situ society level composting.
Hmm.
In such societies, then there are proper laws in the society that say that the waste from this house will not be picked up if it is coming as a mixed waste.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, just recently it was all over on the internet. I'm not sure if I've taken a note of that. In Bangalore, there is this thing that they did that whoever did not segregate the waste, the municipality came back home and just dumped the thing back at their home, right in front of their house, and there was a cost that was put on them. So yeah, I mean, of course, segregation is extremely important. And when you look at the developed countries, the level of segregation is even more. The categories are even more. The cardboards, the tins, the glass, everything is further segregated at source rather than doing it in a material recovery facility or somewhere. But even within the wet waste, there are a few confusions that usually arise, right? Where do I throw the tissue paper? Where do I throw the coconut shells? Uh, where do this go? Can you give some practices that maybe people can pick up on?
So what happens is actually at Inora we have proven that you can actually compost
Paper.
tissue paper waste as well. What
Hmm.
happens is if you're going to use this compost in your gardens, then the tissue paper is going to carry pathogens, and that's where the problem begins. Why a lot of societies, or why municipal corporations say that give coconut shells in a dry waste basket, is only for the sure reason that it takes very long to decompose.
Right.
So that is why they are taken and collected separately.
Hmm.
So ideally, those also can be composted very well. In fact, in Enora, we are practically all the way for a lookout for coconut shells, because we use them very frequently in our composting processes.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, of course, coconut also has a lot more value. I think they can, I mean, before getting into the composting part, there is much more value because I was having this conversation with a company based out of Netherlands, I think last week. So the activated carbons, as we know of, coconut shells are one good source of carbon, right?
Yes.
And instead of putting it for composting, I think they can reap more value out of it through converting into, charring them, creating carbon,
Correct.
and then activating them for better purposes there.
Yes.
Great. So, Abha, I think what we have covered so far is one, uh, the start of Enora from your mother to you. We also looked at the science behind composting, where you're given a very broad and also deep explanations to the science that happens, uh, that we don't get to see through our eyes. And also we looked at the circularity angle of it. We looked also at the economical aspects of it. Now, my last question is looking into the future. This is usually the part that I ask you, futuristic, the vision for the 2047. So, I mean, when first had the meeting with you before the podcast, you did mention of the few SDGs that you're trying to achieve through your efforts and initiatives. So leading up to 2047, what are those few sustainable development goals that you try to focus on? Is there a specific SDG or a few set of SDGs that you want to take into consideration leading up to 2047, or is it all of them?
Most of them, actually, because one should not be looking at SDGs and stylos. Always one, if you cover one SDG, it's almost like feeding into all other SDGs. They are pretty much interlinked. But
Yeah,
if we look at how we are working directly, is first is the journey began with life on land. So Inora has been speaking about all of these SDGs without actually using the word SDG, which we've now
yeah,
recently kind of adopted. But way back in 1992, it was exactly what we were trying to say.
yeah,
So saying that you need to compost because you're going to land up in a bigger danger, environmental danger, way back in 1992. So to begin with, the journey began with the process of composting, basis life on land, because it began with that you need to increase the soil organic carbon.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, that also, life on land, I will again quote one case study of the Tadoba Tiger
Reserve.
Reserve.
Hmm.
So there are these villages in the buffer zones, and they had begun throwing their waste in the forest areas. And of course, wildlife is also moving around these villages. And they found plastic in intestines of some of the wildlife. And so we did projects in some of these villages where we started collecting dry waste separately and sending them for recycling, and then we started composting wet waste. So
Hmm.
again, this is a case study of life on land, life in the forest, life in the ecosystems.
Yeah,
uh, so this is another thing that we feeds directly into life on land.
yeah.
Secondly, life in water is another SDG, because if you look at villages that lack infrastructure, you realize that a lot of them are throwing their waste, dumping their waste along the banks of the river, and
Hmm.
that is polluting the river. Plastic lands up in the river. So one of the direct impact is again life in water. Then sustainable cities and communities, because we are working very closely with municipal corporations, with gram panchayats, and the topic of a sustainable city and a community is incomplete without actually talking about waste management. Then sustainable consumption. So the food that you're consuming, does it have the nutrition value? If
Yeah.
it doesn't, then what do you need to do? So
Mm.
that is another very important aspect of sustainable consumption. And with sustainable consumption comes the flip side of it is sustainable disposal.
Mm.
That's coming through waste management. And then, of course, there is drinking
Climate
water
action.
and sanitation.
I
Uh,
think I think you missed out on climate action.
I'm coming to that. Yes. So climate action is definitely there because we are, at least with the kind of work that we are doing, approximately 1 lakh tons of carbon is avoided. Methane emissions are avoided through our
Okay.
projects. So that is one impact that
Is this verified numbers? Have you undertaken a study or a reporting? No.
we have developed some numbers, we've not
Mm.
verified them, but
Got it.
approximately given the kind of
Impact.
calculations that are available, that is the kind of
Yeah.
impact that we have achieved till date.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
very importantly, and I think the most important sustainable development goal of all the goals is SDG 17, which is the
Partnership.
partnerships. And we are working with individuals, we are working with governing bodies, we are working with CSR. So there's this one example I would like to give. Recently, a CSR partner approached us that we want to do something in the field
Mm.
of wet waste. Meanwhile, we were working very closely with the Zilla Parishad and the Panchayat Samiti, and we had learned that every block is given one dry waste processing unit,
Unit.
and one village is made custodian of that unit. So
Mm.
this CSR partner wanted to work with a particular village. Of that village, the Gram Sevak had no clue that such a facility
Is.
exists and the government has already made it available.
Mm.
So we actually did this awareness kind of a session with that Gram Panchayat body. Then
Mm.
we went and had a meeting with the Gram Panchayat, who was the custodian of that dry waste center.
Center.
And that Gram Panchayat was very forthcoming. They said that yes, we can make the unit operational and we can have the waste, dry waste of this Gram Panchayat come in here. We are even ready to give you the storage facilities. We are ready to give you human resource to run the facility.
Mm.
We were just looking for such an opportunity. Then the CSR partner asked, okay, now if you have a facility ready and if you have a Gram Panchayat who's ready to send the waste, where do you need us? Then
Mm.
we said we need you to help us build awareness among the people regarding segregation. So
Yeah.
they said, okay, give us a proposal and we will start the project. So
Mm.
this is
Mm.
an ideal case scenario where government, NGO, Gram Panchayats and the citizens are coming together with one goal.
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the most important social sustainable
Human
development
tools.
goal.
Oh, very fascinating. I think the kind of work they're doing is definitely touching upon multiple SDG goals out there. And as you so likely said, maybe today we have different new terminologies for all of this, but back in the day, perhaps people thought it to be more simplistic, and it's a way of life. Maybe now we're making it a little more complicated by adding articles after articles and all of this.
So, I would like to make a controversial statement here, but, we have forgotten. But according to me, India is, as a society, an extremely, in terms of waste, a very that way sustainable society.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think 2 years ago, one of our directors was in Sweden, and people there were telling her that we are actually now upcycling because of sustainability, and she said, "What do you do?" So we actually mend our dresses, and we use them, and it was something like the rafu, and we've had rafugurs in our society since centuries, a technology that is actually dying here.
Yeah. I mean,
So
of course, the history that we represent is very rich, and there are glimpses of sustainability that is embedded into the very society or the culture that we live in. Nothing to take away from other countries. I think there are, of course, there are, because when you look at the thing, the solution, of course, exists, especially with the waste problem that we have here in India, the littering problem, not segregating as a source. I mean, there is day in day out, government bodies are coming and shouting on top of their voice with all these different music backgrounds, everything, that segregate your waste, don't throw it here and all. With all that said and done, still the problem exists, right? So it is more of a behavioral problem that I see today, uh,
Absolutely.
for a country like India. But I'm really glad that you touched upon multiple SDGs and how your work is affecting perhaps most of them. And you specifically stressed on that SDG number 70, which is partnerships. So my last and final question to you is this. I mean, it is a lovely job. More power to you and the team at Inora for the kind of work that you're doing, being a catalyst, being a solution provider, uh, also with the R&D that you run to find the right kind of consortium for the bacterial strain that is necessary for that kind of wet waste category. But with all of this, how can company like ourselves at Carbon Mandal help you with your efforts? Is there a way that we can in any way contribute to that?
So one of the important things that we are grappling with is these newer
ESG?
ESG is a new thing. Along with that is the carbon credits, carbon accounting,
Okay.
because and also understanding these numbers, verifying these numbers wherever required. These
Yeah.
are key areas where we would uh, need that, and as ESG, of course, because of course, we are well versed with BRSR, and but we are too small to actually build those compliances yet.
Yeah.
But understand this, and to actually have you alongside, have someone like you alongside us to be talking to industries, that we can actually help you in such things. These
Yeah,
are
yeah.
the
I mean, we can definitely, help each other out there.
yes,
Because what I see is the technicalities. I mean, I as a practitioner of sustainability, a consultant, sometimes I feel that is unnecessarily getting complicated with too many frameworks, too many compliance and all that. But somewhere it is also driving towards it. It is like, ban of plastic is necessary for, because I mean people understand that plastics are no good. I mean, when I say plastic, single-use plastic, I mean the plastic has served a bigger purpose overall. But even with knowing that, you still continue doing that. So that is where the compliance is necessary. So this is where I don't entirely disagree with the compliance requirement, but that is somewhere required. But it has over the period of time, I think, complicated. So there is a necessity, a genuine requirement for uh, be making it simple. That's a word. Making
yes,
it as simple as well. That is definitely there. But when it comes to carbon credits, I think we can definitely have a discussion around that.
yes,
For the kind of work that you do, perhaps there is an opportunity to do when you're doing it in scale, perhaps not through CSR initiatives, maybe your own initiatives when you're doing it. Perhaps that is definitely something that is doable. Uh, Abha, thank you so much for your time.
thank
It was lovely interacting with you for the last 1.5 hours. I think we were on time. It is reaching 4. Uh, you have given a lot of insights into the science behind composting, the circularity angle of it, and how nature-based solutions can also play a role in the industrial setup. Given there is this mixes that you're making to enhance the or speed in the process of the entire composting bit. So there is an industrial application to that as well, taking care of the problem of the smell along with it. So that's also taken care. So thank you so much. Any last parting words you want to give before we close this?
So I would just say that sustainability is easy. All you need is the consistency and
Yeah.
diligence. So, and we are happy to be with you in that journey.
Awesome. I think that's a good note to end this podcast with. So thank you so much, Abba. For the listeners, we will drop the link to Abba's LinkedIn profile and also Inora in the description. You can definitely go and check them out. Um, and you know where to find Carbon Mandal, www.carbonmandal.com. So with that, we close this podcast.